Welcome to the King Tales. Thank you for the love and support. Let's dive in. So, David, you lied to me. Juliet's voice trembled. Is your name even David, or was that a lie too? My name is David, he said quickly. Please believe me. I never lied to you about that. Juliet, you should have told me the truth from the beginning. You pretended to be my driver just to get close to me, to seek revenge. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Let me take you back to what led to all of this. A year had passed since the wedding that never happened. Life had grown quieter, not easier, just quieter. Juliet no longer woke up crying every morning. The pain had dulled, like a wound that had closed but still ached when touched. She buried herself in work, rebuilding her company slowly and carefully. John, however, was falling apart. The failed wedding and viral videos had destroyed his reputation. He lost his job, his friends, and the life he once controlled. Whispers followed him everywhere, and he wandered like a haunted man. Grace and her daughter, on the other hand, were safe and thriving. Grace had found steady work, and her daughter laughed freely again. Though the past still hurt, they were reclaiming the happiness John had tried to steal. One person never left Juliet's side, David. He was no longer just a driver. Juliet had promoted him to her assistant. She trusted him. He arrived early every morning and left late at night, never asking for more than he was given. He never crossed boundaries or pushed for anything. When Juliet was silent, he respected it. When she spoke, he listened. That was how it began. One evening, Juliet stayed late at the office. Outside, the city lay wrapped in darkness, lights blinking from buildings like tired eyes. David knocked softly on her door. "Mom, it's late," he said gently. "You should go home." Juliet sighed, leaning back in her chair. "I know. I just don't like going to an empty house." David was quiet for a moment. Then he said softly, "I can wait until you're ready." She looked at him, really looked at him. His face held no pity, no pressure, just calm presence. From that day on, small moments grew into something more. Coffee breaks turned into conversations. Short drives became long silences that felt safe. Juliet began to laugh again. At first, the sound surprised her. It felt strange in her own ears. One afternoon, stuck in traffic, David made a small joke. Juliet laughed so hard she had to wipe tears from her eyes. Then she stopped suddenly. "I haven't laughed like that in a long time," she said quietly. David smiled, though sadness flickered in his eyes. "I'm glad," he replied. "You deserve peace." Weeks passed. The city healed around them, and so did Juliet. One rainy night, as they left the office, David held an umbrella over her. Their shoulders brushed. Juliet felt her heart race and stopped walking. David stopped too. They stood there, rain falling all around them. "I'm scared," Juliet said suddenly. "Of what?" David asked. "Of trusting again," she whispered. David stepped back, giving her space. "I will never hurt you," he said gently. She searched his face. There was no hunger, no rush, only honesty. Their relationship didn't begin with a kiss. It began with safety. Late-night calls. Shared meals. Quiet drives. Then one evening, David said it first. "I think I've fallen for you." Juliet closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they were filled with fear and love. "I didn't plan this," she admitted. "But I feel it too." That night, they crossed the line together, carefully, slowly, truthfully. Yet even in love, shadows remained. David never spoke about his past. When Juliet asked about his family, he changed the subject. When she asked where he grew up, his answers were short. And whenever John's name appeared online, David's face hardened, his jaw tight, his eyes cold. Juliet noticed. She told herself it meant nothing, but deep inside, something whispered that David was carrying a story he had not told her. One evening, working late again, Juliet helped David organize old company files in the storage room. She paused when she saw a folder labeled Old Store Records, 7 years ago. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were receipts, employee files, and a list of workers from a small clothing store. Then she saw it, a woman's name, followed by the word arrested. The note said she had been accused of stealing a large sum of money. She had protested, tried to explain, but no one believed her. The stolen money had been hidden in her bag. Juliet's breath caught. This felt disturbingly familiar. "What are your private files doing here?" she whispered. Slowly, she turned to David. "Whose files are these?" David froze, his hand hovering over another stack of papers. Panic tightened his chest. "No, not yet." He forced himself to breathe. "They are mine," he said carefully. "I must have left them here by mistake." "David, tell me the truth," Juliet said, her voice shaking. "Who is this woman? And why does it feel like your story is connected to John?" David said nothing at first. Then he lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you before," he whispered. "But I should have." Juliet stepped closer. "Please. I need to know." David took a deep breath. "John is the reason my mother went to prison 7 years ago, before he ever came into your life. We worked at the same small store. John was stealing money. When the owners began to suspect something, he hid the money in my mother's bag." She tried to explain, but they believed him. She was arrested. She's still in prison, serving 10 years for something she didn't do. Juliet's eyes widened. Her hand flew to her mouth. "You mean, your mother?" "Yes," David said softly, pain etched into his face. "She lost 10 years of her life because of him. I tracked John down. I waited for years. I wanted revenge. Then you came into my life." Juliet's heart ached. "So all this time, you lied to me." David reached for her, but she stepped back. "Juliet, please," he said, his voice breaking. "I never meant to hurt you. I saved you, first to stop him, then because I couldn't stop caring about you. You gave me hope. You gave me life again." Tears streamed down Juliet's face. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know if I can forgive this." "You lied to me," Juliet said quietly. "You hid your name. You hid your story." David swallowed hard. "I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid you wouldn't understand. Afraid you'd hate me." Juliet looked at him, and memories rushed back, the morning he had saved her from John, the fear, the danger, the way he had shielded her when no one else could. Her voice softened. "You saved me once," she said gently, "even when I didn't know it. And maybe I can save you now by forgiving you." David's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve it," he whispered. "Not yet." Juliet shook her head. "You deserve love, David. You just need to let go of the past." A few days later, John appeared at the building, asking about work. Juliet saw him first, her chest tightening. The calm on David's face vanished instantly, his hands clenched at his sides. John stopped a few feet away, his eyes scanning the room. "So," he said slowly, disbelief lacing his voice, "I've heard rumors. You, Juliet, dating your driver. Looks like they are true." Juliet stiffened but said nothing. David stepped forward, his voice cold yet steady. "John, I'm not just her driver. And my name isn't just David. I am the boy whose mother you ruined 7 years ago." John blinked, confusion spreading across his face. "What are you talking about?" David's voice grew firmer. You remember the clothing store? The money you stole? You hid it in her bag, my mother's bag. You lied, and she went to prison for it. 10 years. 10 years of her life, gone. And now you stand here like nothing happened. John froze. Memories crashed into him, the woman crying in the store, the way the owners believed him, the moment he hid the money. It was a mistake, he stammered. I didn't know it would. You destroyed a life, David said, his eyes burning. My mother. My family. I tracked you for 7 years, waiting for the right moment to stop you. And I saved Juliet first because I couldn't let you hurt her too. Juliet stepped forward and took David's hand. We stand together, she said softly. John looked at them, guilt and fear twisting his face. I didn't think, he whispered. I never meant for it to go that far. I'll turn myself in. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. I've been suffering for what I did. My life is empty now because of it. David's jaw tightened, but he nodded slowly. Your actions destroyed a life. Now you must face the consequences. Outside, rain began to fall, washing the streets clean. John turned himself in, finally ready to answer for his crimes. Not long after, David's mother was released from prison. When David saw her, he ran forward and wrapped her in his arms. Mom, he cried. My son, she whispered through tears. I'm free. I'm finally free. Juliet watched from a distance, her heart swelling. She turned to David. You stayed true, she said. You fought for justice, and for us. David met her gaze, his voice steady. I promise you. No more secrets. No more lies. Only truth. Only us. Juliet smiled through tears. And I promise to stay, she said softly, because love is stronger than revenge. The storm of the past finally ended. 2 hearts were broken and healed. A mother regained her freedom. And the man who caused the pain finally faced justice. Love, forgiveness, and truth stood together, unshaken. The future belonged to them, hard-earned, honest, and strong. Moral: life will test you with betrayal, lies, and secrets. But courage, truth, and forgiveness have the power to heal. The strongest love is not built on passion alone, but on trust, honesty, and standing together through storms. Justice may take time, but it always finds its way. Truth always rises, and love, when real, endures. Epilogue. Months later, the city felt different, lighter, as if it, too, had learned how to breathe again. Juliet's company stood taller than ever, not just rebuilt, but reborn. She led with calm strength now, no longer driven by fear, but by purpose. David walked beside her, not as a shadow, but as an equal. Trust had replaced secrecy. Every day, they chose honesty, sometimes difficult, always necessary. David visited his mother often. She laughed more than he remembered, her eyes brighter, her steps freer. They spoke about lost time, about healing, about starting again. There were scars, yes, but no chains. Justice had returned what it could, and love carried the rest. One quiet evening, Juliet and David stood on the balcony of her apartment, the city lights stretching endlessly below. The air was cool, the past finally silent. We didn't win easily, Juliet said. No, David agreed. But we won truth. She took his hand. And we kept love. David smiled, the kind of smile that came from peace, not relief. Whatever comes next, he said, we face it together. Juliet leaned into him, certain at last. The future didn't promise perfection, but it promised honesty, courage, and a love strong enough to endure anything. And that was more than enough. Final epilogue. Years passed, gently this time. The world remembered John as a cautionary tale, a man who thought power placed him above consequence. His name faded from headlines, then from memory, exactly where it belonged. David's mother built a quiet life, opening a small tailoring shop of her own. Every stitch she made carried freedom in it. Every customer who smiled reminded her that justice, though delayed, had finally arrived. Juliet's company expanded beyond borders. Yet no matter how high she rose, she never lost the softness she had fought to protect. She mentored young women who carried pain behind their ambition, teaching them that strength did not mean silence, and success did not require surrendering the heart. David became more than her partner in love, he became her partner in vision. Together, they funded legal aid for the wrongfully accused, quietly changing lives the way no spotlight ever could. For David, every case was a promise kept to his mother. For Juliet, every victory was proof that truth could grow from betrayal. On the anniversary of his mother's release, they gathered on the beach at sunrise. The sky burned gold and blue, waves whispering secrets only the healed could hear. David took Juliet's hands. "We didn't just survive," he said. "We transformed." Juliet smiled. "Pain taught us what love really cost, and what it's worth." As the sun climbed higher, they walked forward together, leaving no shadows behind them. Because love, when built on truth, doesn't just endure. It redeems. Afterward. Sometimes, stories don't end. They settle. Juliet learned that forgiveness is not forgetting, it is choosing peace over poison. There were days the memories returned, sharp and uninvited, but they no longer controlled her. She had learned how to stand in truth without being defined by pain. David learned that revenge may promise relief, but only justice brings freedom. Letting go of anger did not erase the past, it released his future. In loving Juliet, he learned to love himself again, without guilt, without shadows. His mother became a quiet symbol of resilience in the community. Women sought her out, not just for her skill with fabric, but for her strength. She listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, her words carried the weight of survival. Together, Juliet and David became something rare, a union built not on perfection, but on transparency. They argued honestly, loved deliberately, and never allowed silence to grow into secrecy again. And when people asked how they survived betrayal, lies, and injustice, Juliet always answered the same way. "We didn't survive alone." Because love is not just a feeling, it is a choice made daily. To speak the truth. To stand together. To keep walking, even when the road remembers your pain. And that is how their story lived on, not as a tale of heartbreak, but as proof that even the deepest wounds can become the foundation of something unbreakable. Legacy. Long after the storm had passed, people still spoke of Juliet and David, not because their lives were perfect, but because they were real. Their story traveled quietly, passed from one heart to another, a reminder that healing does not come suddenly, and justice does not always arrive on time, but both are possible. Juliet never forgot the woman she once was, the one who cried herself to sleep, who feared empty rooms and broken promises. She honored her past by refusing to let it harden her. Strength, she learned, was not in shutting people out, but in choosing who deserved to stay. David became a man defined not by loss, but by courage. He forgave without excusing. He remembered without reliving. And every time he stood beside Juliet, he stood as proof that love could rise from the ashes of betrayal. On quiet evenings, they would sit together and talk about nothing and everything, their work, their dreams, the lives they had touched without ever knowing it. Sometimes, silence wrapped around them, warm and familiar. It was no longer heavy. It was home. And when younger voices asked them what truly mattered in life, David would answer gently, truth. Juliet would smile and add, and the bravery to stand by it. Their story became a legacy, not written in headlines or shouted into the world, but lived daily in honesty, compassion, and unbreakable trust. Because some stories don't need an ending. They need a future.